I know in this area whereof I speak, as she would know in law where she
You're
speaks.
certain. Tonight you're only thinking that you know what you're talking about.
I'm trying to phrase it in a legal context because I have seen Mrs. Murray on cross-examination, and I don't intend to get cross-examined. If I'm going to answer to what I said, not what you're going to try and make me say.
All right,
So
you want to bet?
Before it's finished, you'll try, sure. Agnostic, simply by definition, is not what Mrs. Murray says. Agnostic, by classical definition, historically, simply means a person who has gnosis, no knowledge of the situation. Now,
he was talking specifically about the Gnosticism.
Well, could I just get that guy to make a fool of himself?
Of course, you're not prejudiced at all. Old impartial Charlie Brown. John always says he's behind me, and I say, yeah, far behind me. But the point is that the word agnostic itself classically means I just don't know. Now, Huxley's use of it is... No, it can be proven very easily, simply by going back and checking the
We can break down anything here today. For atheist means against theism.
No, it just means no God.
I'm not going to accept this because I don't have proof that there is no God.
No, I know, I understand that, but Mrs. Murray, we will have to admit, won't we, that terms...
You say you have to admit, don't include me in...
Well, I think we'll have to admit it if we're going to have dialogue, that terms in context must be defined or there is no dialogue.
No, there are a couple things that are going here. First off, you're speaking to a community of people who have some very, popularly held opinions about either what a religious person is or an agnostic or an atheist. And you cannot get into a very esoteric description of what this person is or is not, or how it's derived from Greek, because there's no meaning to the thing we are talking
There's a problem here that has to be solved, or you can't have a dialogue, and the problem is very simple.
That we accept the definition that you give.
No, we accept a definition which has been classically used and which people generally know.
The word agnostic has not been classically used in relation to the existence of God. It wasn't. It was coined deliberately by Huxley in order to have this particular definition given to it that he wanted to give it at that time.
He may have
coined it. If that word was used as against, and gnosis is knowledge, not knowledge of God or religion or anything
I'm aware of
it. It is just no knowledge.
I'm aware.
This word means, and it could be no knowledge.
I'm aware of
it,
ma'am. I studied Greek for 10 years. I'm aware of the usage of the term and the derivatives of it. I'm not trying to argue that point. I'm simply saying that you're tying it to Huxley. Is not an accurate study of the word. The word means I have no knowledge.
I don't care when this word was taken out of its original context, because I can be an agnostic about radio waves. I can be an agnostic. So I am saying that this is a very special religious or anti or non-religious interpretation by one man, Thomas Huxley, in 1869. And before that time, it was not used in that kind of context.
Ma'am, the word agnosis has been used historically long before Huxley was ever thought or born.
In relationship to religion?
To religion, yes. You don't know it because you're not a student of comparative religions, and I am.
I beg your pardon, I am a student.
You hold a degree in it?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm not an expert in your law. I'm not an expert in your law.
I'm not an expert in law either, but I am an expert in common sense.
And compared to my knowledge of law, you're an expert. And compared to your knowledge of comparative religions, I am. And I can tell you right now what the word means.
He's showing himself as a learned man and all that.
Well, I'm not. I'm just cheap trick.
Let's get down to the business at hand.
Mrs. Murray, you know what's so disturbing? The fact that you have a group of cliches which have been neatly cataloged for every time you are pressed into a position for a simple definition, you immediately flip off a sentence which is supposed to dismiss it.
No.
You haven't dismissed it.
We have an idea of agnosticism here that was a very, very definite terminology that has been used over an extended period of time by theologians derived from Thomas Huxley's definition of this, particularly in England and America.
Ma'am, I have already told you that long before Thomas Huxley, theologians were aware of the term agnostic and knew it and discussed it.
Are you happy with this? If you are,
I'm not happy with it. It's a fact.
I knew this one.
All I'm looking for is just one important. If Mrs. Murray ever concedes a point, do you have definite knowledge that the word agnostic means what you said. Do you have absolute proof of it, that it was never used by theologians?
Nobody has absolute proof of anything. You can't even prove that you're sitting here, and you know it.
I can't?
No, huh?
Well, I could prove very easily right now.
So we get back to
empirical fact.
No. What we're doing is getting off on a wee little problem here that is not related.
It's a problem
to
of definitions of terms.
No, it is not a problem of definitions.
Sure it is, because
it's a red herring, which takes
you,
away from the central subject.
Mrs. Murray, what you say is this. You say agnostic means so-and-so, and there's no such thing as an agnostic.
Let me just enter in here a moment, Walter.
No bearing on the subject at all.
No. She did not say she's an agnostic.
She said
she's an atheist. Now, do you want to debate that one?
I'm going to discuss atheism with her, but her usage of agnostic...
But that's what she claims she is.
But her usage of agnostic, you see, puts you at a disadvantage when you start to talk about atheism, because there's a very distinct difference between the two. Now, Bertrand Russell is one of...
Well, I want to play with my definition tonight. How do you like them apples? I don't care what your definition is. I want to play with my definition, and I want people to know what I think that definition is.
Could I ask you a question? Could I ask you a question?
Ask two if they're small.
All right. If you went... I'll give you a short one. If you went into a courtroom...
Yeah.
In a context of a case...
Yeah.
And said that to a judge... We're going to play it, Buster, by my rules. Never mind what...
This is all that an attorney ever does. No, this is all that an attorney ever does. No, sir.
They'll cite enough things to throw you out of court.
You don't know anything about law. And this is where you fall down. No, because when an attorney goes into court, he says, now, Judge, I'm going to show you something. And what I'm going to show you is this, that my client killed this preacher without malice. And that he was temporarily insane at the time, you see. And then he goes and he sets up this premise and he proceeds to prove it. This is exactly what an attorney does. He says, these are the grounds I am going to play on, and I'm going to use this...
Supposing the judge said, define corpus delicti, Mrs. Murray.
Oh, come on.
What would you say?
It's a delectable corpse.
What would you say? Seriously, what would you say?
No, this has no meaning.
It does have meaning.
No, each one of these times we have...
I want a definition in a context. I want a definition in a context.
No, we're going to talk about agnosticism.
No, we're going to talk first about language.
I have no intention.
Define in a courtroom for me as a lawyer. You're in your own field now. You're safe. I'm a judge asking you. What is corpus delicti?
It doesn't matter, you see.
It does in a courtroom.
It does not
but that's
matter.
Not a courtroom.
John, it does not
you're
matter
making the whole point.
in this context.
It does.
No.
Mrs. Murray wants to play language by her rules.
No.
So words lose all their meaning.
You're going to go into a courtroom, and I'm going to be the judge and say to you, define insanity. Oh, come on. This is
we're taking commonly accepted
one of the
terms.
things that has to do with court and law and everything else are semantics. And one of the things, and I have no intention in getting into a semantic fight.
Mrs. Murray, you will admit,
if you don't want to accept the definition of agnosticism in relation to what I'm talking about tonight, let's drop this from the subject.
I'll drop it if you'll just answer this question. Are you willing to admit that in specific contexts, words always mean the same thing?
No. Of course not. They don't. We just now have a tremendous feud going all over the world as to when a person is dead. When a person's heart can be used for transplant. What is death? And nobody knows what death is. We have this whole idea of what is God. And you go out and you ask 200 different theologians what God is. One says it's energy, and one says it's love, and one says it's Jesus Christ, and another says it's the Bible, and another says it's a long bushy-haired guy sitting up in a closet. Nobody knows. These words cannot be interchanged because they have significant meaning for different people. And the most that we can do is try to reach persons knowing what newspapers carry, knowing what magazines carry, knowing what radio stations carry, knowing what religious programs are on the air. We have to use these terms in a kind of a way that everybody will understand. That's it.
Do you think, Reverend Martin, that we might move away from the...
Oh, I've gotten to the point. The main point that I wanted to get from Mrs. Murray was that you can never depend upon the meaning of a word. She has a total anarchy of language, which means that anytime you go into a discussion on any point, the moment that the definition suits her, she will change the definition, and that's the end of it.
That is a completely idiotic statement.
No, I don't think so. I think it's factual. Now, you spoke for almost 17 minutes, and I haven't had but 8, so I'd like to finish
but you've been on here 50 times, according to...
Yeah, but your press coverage is much better than mine. You've got much better press coverage.
So that you have a bigger audience tonight because I'm here.
Oh, no. Me?
Sure. Yeah.
Believe me, John has got the...
You know, 1,640 years Christianity has had the floor without anybody really to confront them or debate them. And every single time I'm invited to a radio station someplace, always 2 or 3... No, I'm sorry. 2 or 3